Hi class, welcome to week 9. This week we will delve into persuasive speaking. So what is persuasive speaking? Persuasion is a deliberate attempt by the speaker to create, reinforce, or change the attitudes, beliefs, values, and or behaviors of the listener. So let's break this definition down a little bit. The speaker originates the message in a deliberate manner when we delve into persuasive speaking. The speaking's general purpose, obviously, must be to persuade, and persuasion must not be confused with coercion, which is forcing someone via threats or intimidation to do something against his or her will. So attitudes are learned and persistent psychological responses, predispositions, or inclinations to act one way or feel a particular way towards something. Beliefs are those things people have learned to accept as plausible based on interpretation and judgment. Values are enduring principles to worth or what a person sees as right or wrong. And finally, behaviors are unconcealed actions or reactions people have often in response to stimuli. So as you can see, when you're trying to reinforce or change attitudes, beliefs, values, or behavior, persuasion involves ethics. So now we should talk about what a persuasive speech should do. So first you want to be narrowing a listener's options. Help the audience make wise choices through your persuasion. So this is through appealing to a particular response. To convince, you create a new or change an existing attitude, belief, value, or behavior. To stimulate, you overcome apathy in your audience or reinforce an existing attitude, belief, value, or behavior. And finally, to actuate is to act your audience to take action. And just think, appeals are the means by which you prove or establish the argument you're making. So the assertion you're making in your central idea is a proposition if it's a fact. A fact answers the question, what is accurate or not. Value answers what has worth or importance. And policy answers what procedures, plans, or courses of action are needed to be terminated or implemented. So now we'll talk about what are the traditional appeals used to persuade. The first is pathos. Pathos appeals to a listener's emotions. This could be fear, anger, sympathy, empathy, or happiness. Usually you use narratives and examples to appeal to pathos that involve vivid descriptions and emotional language. Appeals to mythos is often fueled by emotion also, but it's not always viewed as a noteworthy appeal. This is because of ethnocentrism, which is the notion that one's culture or viewpoint is superior to that of others, which is a downside of mythos. Ethos is the credibility inspired by the speaker's character. This involves competency, the audience's perception of how knowledgeable you are about your topic. Character, the audience's perception of your intentions and of the concerns you have for them. And charisma, the audience's perception of your personality. So there are 3 levels of ethos. The initial level of ethos is the credibility your audience perceives in your speech before it even starts. This is the terminal level. The derived level of ethos is the credibility your audience assigns you during your speech based on the content and effectiveness of your speech. Finally, the terminal level of ethos is the credibility your audience has of you after you have finished your speech. So you need to think about how the initial relates to the terminal, and then the derived level in between. Appeals to logos, this is you engage in reasoning, the rational thinking humans do to reach conclusions or to justify beliefs or acts by appealing to logos. This is usually done through statistics, facts, and expert testimony. So what are the modern appeals used to persuade? That's what we're going to talk about next. A lot of people go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs states that humans have a set of needs that must be met. This could be personal identity, independence, happiness, and potential, our self-esteem, respect from others and ourselves, our social needs, belonging with others, safety needs such as clothing and shelter, and then finally the physiological needs, food, water, and air. So Monroe's motivated sequence also appeals to needs through attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action. You can also appeal to harmony, the cognitive dissonance theory. This emphasizes the human need to be in a harmonious state. This may be conflicting attitudes that cause disharmony, and you need to be careful. You can also appeal to gain, an expectancy outcome values theory. Appeal to a commitment is another one. This involves central processing, which is being motivated to listen and think critically, whereas peripheral processing is either not paying close attention to an argument or superficially accepting an argument. So now we need to talk, this is very important, about what are the specific parts of building your argument. First, you need the claim. We talked about this before. The assertion you are making will be a claim of fact, a claim of policy, or a claim of value. Then you need evidence, the support material and information that will prove your claim. And then finally, the warrant, an assumption that acts as links between the evidence and the claim. So there's three types: authoritative warrants, but they're based on the credibility of the source of the support materials. Motivational warrants are based on the speaker's and the audience's needs and values, and substantive warrants are based on the reliability of the supportive claims. So what are the different types of arguments? That's what we'll be talking about next. Arguments by deduction. The most famous argument by deduction is a syllogism. It's a classical form of deductive reasoning within the structure. This belongs a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. Probably the most famous syllogism is the Socrates syllogism. The major premise is all humans or all men are mammals. Then the minor premise, Socrates is a mammal. Conclusion, therefore. That's what you want to think about with a syllogism. You can also do it with the one with the dolphins. Ethymeme is a shortened or truncated syllogism used when your premise is obvious or common knowledge and therefore do not need to state it. In the example, you would drop the obvious minor premise, the Fred is a human, and jump to the conclusion. Be careful of faulty syllogisms. In order to be considered a sound argument, the major and minor premises as well as the conclusion must be factual. If they are not, it is a faulty syllogism. Arguments by induction is the opposite. They argue a specific case to a general statement. It suggests that a likely outcome is based on significant cases, and remember that the quantity and quality of specific claims decides the reliability. Argument by analogy is another way you can argue. It concludes that something will be accurate for one case if it's true for a similar case. This is most useful when giving a persuasive speech on proposition of policy. Argument by cause. This attempts to demonstrate a relationship between two events or factors in which one of the events or factors causes the other. Next week, we're going to talk about fallacies. You need to be careful of arguing a faulty cause. Argument by authority. This locates its power in the ethos of the testimony of others you might use to support your claim. So now that you know the basics of persuasion, I would suggest looking over the information and then making sure that you can read all of the information for this week. And then you can let me know any questions you may have.